Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today I rise in opposition to this bill, the so-called Fix Our Forests Act. This bill is anything but a fix for our forests, and it threatens to intensify not just the wildfire crisis, but also the biodiversity and climate crises. We appreciate the focus and leadership that Chair Westerman has shown on these issues, and it is clear to me and so many others that our forests are a genuine passion of his. But unfortunately, this bill completely misses the mark and has the potential to do serious damage. Look, last Congress, Democrats delivered. We secured more than $15 billion in historic investments through the infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act to help keep communities safe, restore healthy ecosystems, and promote healthy and sustainable forest management techniques. We provided resources for the Forest Service so they could treat a record-breaking number of acres without gutting environmental protections. We provided planning resources for at-risk communities. We provided more than $1 billion for staffing and resources in our permitting offices, funds that have already shortened project timelines by an average of 6 months. And we supported better pay and benefits for wildland firefighters, an issue that I've personally and consistently championed. It is critical that our federal land management agencies and their partners have the resources and staff capacity that is required to promote resilient forests and safe communities. So it's shocking that most House Republicans voted against those two successful popular laws, the Inflation Reduction Act and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. It's also shocking that right at the moment, when a lot of those investments are close to needing reauthorization, the majority is turning its back once again. And it's a stark contrast with the bill today. That is not for lack of trying on our side, but unfortunately, our Republican counterparts in House Natural Resources have refused to work with committee Democrats on changes to the most egregious sections of this bill. I was optimistic at seeing several amendments filed by Democrats that highlight the missing pieces of this legislation. These included an effort to consider climate change in the bill, add authorizations for much-needed funding throughout an otherwise unfunded bill, and to rid this bill of the unprecedented and dangerous sections that strip Americans of access to the courts under the guise of litigation reform. Of course, these amendments were not ruled in order, supposedly due to Republican floor rules and procedure. Rules and procedures that apparently apply only selectively, because this bill has a slew of violations throughout, including numerous violations of the cut-go rules that are allegedly so important to the far-right Freedom Caucus. I hope those Freedom Caucus members know what they're being asked to vote for. So what's in this bill that is so important that cut-go no longer applies? Well, the heart and soul of this bill is a long-standing Republican wish list of priorities that undermine science-based management decisions, undermine bedrock environmental protections, and undermine opportunities for community input. The so-called Fix Our Forests Act inappropriately stretches the credulity of NEPA's emergency authorities. It undercuts the popular and bipartisan Endangered Species Act and even makes it more difficult for communities to challenge proposed projects in their own backyards. The climate crisis, the biodiversity crisis, and the safety of our communities all converge in our nation's forests. Unfettered backcountry logging is not the answer. We need to support communities, not silence them. You know what else is not in this bill? Unlike the fire response laws that Democrats passed last Congress, there is nothing here about firefighter pay. What kind of fire response bill doesn't include pay for our firefighters in it? Are you kidding me? H.R. 8790 sets a dangerous precedent. The climate crisis is now. The wildfire crisis is now. We shouldn't be wasting our time on rushed bills with no real solutions. Many of the Republican initiatives here have already stalled in the 2025 Farm Bill process. A better strategy to address the wildfire crisis would be to work across jurisdictional boundaries and with our Senate colleagues to find true consensus. We should be passing regular appropriations bills this week so that agencies like FEMA and the Forest Service have the resources they need and are not scrambling at the end of the fiscal year to find ways to fulfill their existing mandates, let alone the new and unfunded ones in this bill. This is a live issue, by the way. The chief of the Forest Service has warned us explicitly that they are facing budget shortfalls due to Republican-led appropriations bills. In fact, just on Friday, the Forest Service announced that it had to halt 2025 seasonal hires amid the budget crunch. We also need to work on providing relief and support for the communities that have been devastated by wildfire, instead of trying to have federal agencies undertake extensive management projects in their backyard without any true consent. And we should be passing legislation that pays our federal wildland firefighters and gives them the benefits that they deserve, another major priority that this bill fails to advance. The Forest Service is already stretched dangerously thin, and federal firefighters are chronically underpaid. If we genuinely want to protect our communities and environment from devastating wildfires, we must prioritize people, ecosystems, and the economy. This bill fails to do each of those things. I reserve my time.